Good morning. I'm going to talk about Chapter 20. Consumer choice theory is what I would call the chapter. That's the model at the heart of it. In my notes, I have written here that you might want to, in the Miller text, you might want to read the appendix before the chapter. I wrote that some time ago. I don't remember what I meant by it, but anyway, you might want to read the appendix before the chapter. The big picture, what we're going to look at here is a little bit looking into the psychology of each of us as we face decisions across goods. So it's kind of fun, um, but we're going to use a model to do it, and it's a fairly complex model, but we'll get there. I'm going to break this into at least two parts, depending on when I start to have a mess up or have interruptions. I might have more parts, but I'm planning to break it into two parts. I'm going to start with the budget constraint. And after I do the budget constraint, then I'll shift over and I'll do a second video on the utility curve. Okay, so to give you a little bit more tighter feel for what I mean, ask yourself this question. As a consumer, which we all are, what might you do when you get a raise? And if not a raise, what if you come across some chunk of change, some supplemental income? Suddenly someone gives you, let's say, $1,000. What kind of things might you do? Just think about it. Okay. Thinking that you might have thought, well, I would buy this or I would buy that. You might have thought I would buy a little of this and I would set some of the money aside. Or you might have thought I'll buy a little of this and a little of that. So by the end of this, we're going to model all those answers that you might have chosen with this additional income. I'm going to do like sometimes I think I have to do. I'm going to start off by defining things that are really kind of complex and hard to understand at first, and then I'll try to work back to those throughout the discussion and revisit them to explain them. So I'm going to start with the income effect. We talked about income before as a determinant of demand. We're talking about consumer behavior, so we are talking about demand. When I asked what you would do with the supplemental income or supplemental money you might come across, you might have thought about increasing demand for some goods or services, and you probably didn't think about it, but you might have then been substituting for those inferior goods and decreasing demand for those. You might have also thought about, well, if it's a raise that I'm getting, maybe it's not just what I would buy, maybe it's what I would do with my time. Maybe if with a raise I might work more, and that's its own kind of substitution. So the income effect works like this. If I get a raise, I have more money. If leisure, that is time off from work, were a good, if I treated that time off from work like it was its own good, I would use my new money to buy more of that. Let that sink in. If I get a raise, I have more money. If leisure were good, I would use that additional money to buy leisure, which is to say, I would work less by making more money. More money would induce me to want more time off because now I could afford that time off. Since looking at it in terms of labor or leisure, I find it easier to think of a necessity with the income effect, at least first go around. When the price of some necessity falls, I have more money I can spend elsewhere, or I can buy more of that good. As I may use the extra money to buy more of other goods, it's like an income effect of that price drop. It's easier to envision with necessities than with most goods, so I'd like to start there, but it's true for anything. So what I'm saying there is, think about gasoline. If you drive very much, you spend money on gas, you don't really like high-priced gas, and the reason you don't like high-priced gas probably is because you have to buy the gas in order to do the things you do, and the higher price the gas is, the less of other stuff you can buy. Now, if you work that backwards, if the price of this thing falls, gas, what are you going to use that money for? To go driving more? You're going to burn more gas because the price of it fell? For most of us, the answer is probably no. We would use the savings from gas to buy other stuff. That means when the price of gas falls, it's like we got that raise. We can go buy other stuff because of the income effect of the price fall. So that's the income effect. Don't worry, we'll model it. The substitution effect works like this. Thinking of it in terms of the labor model, if I get a raise, I can make more money by working more. So I substitute work for leisure. In other words, the raise induces me to shift my time toward the thing that is rewarding for me, work. Now, to think about it in the substitution effect in terms of goods, when the price of some good falls, like we just did before, it becomes cheaper compared to other goods. So I might buy more of this good and fewer of the other goods. I would substitute the thing that is treating me well for other things. So this would be the substitution effect of a gas price fall would be, oh, gas prices are cheap. Cool, I like gas. It's my friend. I'm going to go drive more and burn up more gas because I like gas because it's treating me well because its price fell. Probably the income effect is stronger with a thing like gas, a necessity kind of thing like gas. That's why it's easier to think of it in the first place. If we think of luxuries, though, and the price of luxuries become cheaper, then we say, oh, we really like that, and we shift our consumption toward that. That's the substitution effect within us. And the reason these are called effects is because sometimes they're conflicting things. They're just two ways that we can look at our tendencies. So now I ask the question, what's so important about, or why do I concern myself about the price of goods and my salary? Because the combination of these things form what's called our budget constraint. So now we're going to step toward our graph. Budget constraint I have in my notes defined as a graphical representation of the trade-off between goods due to our limited resources. Now, let me point out a couple things. For this model, where it's a simplification of reality, same as always, we're going to be looking at two goods and pretending they're the only two goods in the world. So essentially, that's just holding all this constant. And when we're talking about income, we're talking about the availability of money to us in a given time. It could be income from any source when we're talking about consuming goods. I remember when I first went through this, I was thinking, it doesn't make sense because, I have other sources. I had my student loan refund, which many people watching this would be thinking of perhaps. I did have credit card access. I had access to credit. So when they were talking about a budget constraint as a function of my income, I was thinking, yeah, but I can exceed that. That's not the point. The budget constraint represents our limited resources. So if you want to think about those other sources of income or sources of ways to purchase things, that's fine, but they're limited too. So if you want to include those in your thinking, we're just talking about in the time period, the access to all the money or credit you can access, and there is a limit to it. We all face some constraint. So whether you take it as literally your income, or if you want to think of it as something more broad, that's fine. We'll speak about it as being literally your income, but just know it could include something bigger, but it would still be limited. It would just be out there instead of in here, and everything else would also be out there instead of in here. I hope that's clear. So again, budget constraint, graphical representation of the trade-off between two goods due to our limited resources. Now, the slope of the budget constraint represents the relative price of the two goods. The slope of the budget constraint represents the relative price of the two goods. And I have in my notes some assumptions about people and goods. I don't think these are in the Miller textbook. I have this from a different source, which is around me somewhere. That's why I'm looking around, but it's not handy. These are good to think about, though. They're fun to think about. I have three of them listed here, three assumptions. The first one is completeness. Completeness reads like this: people are not paralyzed by indecision. They could say what is preferred or when two goods are equally attractive. So these are assumptions. These are assumptions of people being rational, and sometimes we violate the assumptions of rationality, at least on a case-by-case basis, or maybe in the short term. I remember when I was young going to convenience stores. I'd be on a road trip, and my go-to used to be Mountain Dew, but sometimes I would go to that cooler at the back of the convenience store, and I'd think, oh, I'm going to get a Mountain Dew, and then I'd say, well, I don't know, maybe today I feel like grape soda. And once I started thinking of something else, once I broke my habit, it was like it was on. I could stand there for 5 or 10 minutes, and when this term came up, this definition, I thought, geez, I violated that, because I could stand there for 5 or 10 minutes paralyzed by indecision. Which soda do I want today? Sometimes it's not that easy to say. But for our model, we're going to assume that people could say. And that also, by the way, that their stated preferences would match the revealed preferences, that what they state is really how they feel. Sometimes that doesn't always pan out as well, but that's what we're talking about. The second assumption is called transitivity. This is a fun little assumption. If good A is preferred to good B, and good B is preferred to good C, then what can we say about A and C? Again, if good A is preferred to good B, and good B is preferred to good C, what should we be able to say about A and C? It shouldn't be that C is preferred to A. If A is preferred to B, and B is preferred to C, then A should be preferred to C. So, again, this is an assumption of rationality. Sometimes I think, because I've been involved with politics, when I watch the primary process happening across both parties, I don't know that this always holds true. If you think about candidates with similar, and maybe this is tied more closely to the third one than it is transitivity, I don't know, I'm going to say it now anyway. But when you see candidates with similar platforms, and you talk to people who strongly favor one of these, and then as you're talking to them, you have them rank the candidates that they like, it should be that the candidates with similar platforms are similarly ranked in their minds. But sometimes they aren't, at least by my experience. They'll have candidate A and candidate B and candidate C, and they really like candidate A. And then when you say rank them, suddenly they prefer C to B. They're ranking them on something other than their platforms. It must be the case, or they're violating our assumption of transitivity. I think I did say it at the right place. But it is also tied to C, to our third assumption here, continuity. If good A is preferred to good B, then goods just like A are also preferred to B. And so I think I can use that. I think you can see that primary candidate example could be used to describe either of these, I believe. Again, continuity. If good A is preferred to good B, then goods just like A are also preferred to good B. At least, if you think about our rationality, it should be that way. So that's what we're going to assume with this model. Those are some of the base assumptions. Then my next piece, under my budget constraint, I have a whiteboard behind me I'm going to pick up in just a minute. I'm going to try not to list everything that's in this table, which is in my notes, which are available. So you can just, where's my finger? There it is. There. You can pull up these notes and see everything that's in this table. I really don't want to plot ordered pairs in this camera. The top line of this outlines where all this is coming from. We're pretending we have two goods. We have pizza, and the price of pizza is $10. And we have CDs, these are compact discs. Oh, this was not planned. CDs. So, yes, some of these are pre-recorded, but these are music discs. Steve Miller Band, that's a great one. Classic. Anyway, music CDs, not the things you buy at Best Buy or Office Depot, if you're thinking that doesn't work. And we're subject to, if you're looking at my notes, I have ST there. I'm using that to abbreviate. Subject to our income of $100 in whatever time period, week, month, whatever. So this forms our budget constraint. If you look down through this table, what I filled in there is some different combinations of pizza and compact discs that you can buy with $100. So I'm going to summarize the table and put it right on the model now. All these figures are within that table in my notes. So here we go. All right, I put, hold on, let me get my angle right. Okay, all right, we're getting there. Yeah, okay. We can buy pizza, or we can buy CDs. Price of pizza is $10. Price of CDs, we're saying is $20. I know they're not usually $20, but what do you want to use? $7.99? No, we're using simple numbers, that's all. Our income is $100. So this part should feel fairly comfortable, except instead of producing something, we're talking about what we can consume. And it's a nice straight line, right? Because if I have $100, how many pizzas can I consume? I can't tell if you got it. I'm thinking that most people watching this by now have it. If I have $100 and pizzas are $10, I could consume 10 pizzas. Let's say that's here. And it would have to be there, not here, or here. Why does it have to be here? Because if I have $100 and pizzas are $10, I can consume 10 pizzas if and only if I don't consume any CDs. So now let's try it the other way. How many CDs can I buy? Yes. I cracked myself up. I could buy 5. So if this height is 10, I'd say about half that is 5. Maybe like there. But that's only if, what? I don't buy any pizzas. Could I buy combinations in between, of course? Let's see. I have this table. It's here. It's all laid out for us. I did the calculations. So let me pick something kind of neutral. Well, since we have 5s and 10s, let's suppose for a second we bought 5 pizzas. How many CDs would I be able to buy if I bought 5 pizzas? Well, 5 times the $10 would be 50 of my 100, so I could buy 2 pizzas, and I'd have $10 left over. We're not going to worry about leftover. We're going to do everything just along one line. If I bought 6 pizzas, how many CDs? 2. 6 times 10 is 60. Would leave me $40 left over. They're $20 each, so I could buy 2 CDs. So that would be like what if let me use that number 2. What if I bought 2 pizzas? I'd be spending $20 on pizza, would leave me $80. I could buy 4 CDs. If I bought, I don't know, 1 CD, $20, leave me $80 for pizza. They're 10 each. So that would leave me, my computer timed up, that would leave me enough to buy 8. And I think you see where this is going. That is my budget constraint. As I said before, the slope is the trade-off between the 2 goods, and it's the relative relationship of the prices. I could buy 2 pizzas for each CD because the CDs cost twice as much as the pizzas. I can buy 2 pizzas up to 1 for each CD. So the slope is the relative relationship of the prices, and it's convenient. This is linear for us. It's more convenient than the production possibilities curve. We don't have to worry about increasing opportunity costs. So I imagine by now it feels very comfortable and kind of like it's the same thing. It's not exactly the same thing. That's what we can produce with the resources we have. This is what we can consume with the resources we have. With that said, suppose you get a 10% raise. No, let's make it 20%. That's a more round number for what we're doing. Suppose you get a 20% raise. What's that bring my income to? I'm sure you got it. 120. What's that mean about what I can buy of pizzas or CDs? Well, I can buy 2 more pizzas or 1 more CD. And I don't really care to work out each raise that I might get. The moral of that story is increasing income is an increasing budget constraint, just like finding more resources in the production possibilities curve. So that increasing income moves out our budget constraint. Okay, let me get that line off there. I suppose 1 or 2 more things might happen with our pizzas and CDs here. Let's suppose the price of CDs, whoever's selling these CDs realizes how obsolete they are, and the price of CDs falls to $10. If the price of CDs falls to $10, what's that going to do to my budget constraint? Would it change this point? No, because if I weren't buying any CDs, what difference would the price of CDs make to me? Only at that point is that true, though, because if CDs fell to $10, I could buy now 10 CDs. That would be out here. And I could buy more CDs for any level of pizza. Or for any level of CDs, I could use the savings on CDs to buy more pizza. Remember what we said a few minutes ago? The income and substitution effects. So the price of CDs fell. Proceed as if that's a straight line. So I could buy more CDs, but I don't just have to buy more CDs. Like, suppose I was buying 4 CDs. If I was buying 4 CDs, I used to be able to buy this many pizzas. Now, since CDs are cheaper, I could use that savings on CDs like income and buy more pizza. Depends on my preferences. That comes down to our tastes or maybe our psychology, whatever. That's the next video. So I'm going to stop this one. Let that sink in, and as soon as I can, I'll post another video with the other side of this.